Thank you everyone that went to Twitter and tweeted your questions so I could do this Q&A. I enjoy these videos and I hope you guys do too. I'm sure we've got sports questions and some non-sports questions, which is perfectly fine, which is always fine unless I say there's a specific theme for a Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started and see how many of these questions I can get through. Chief Razorback starts us off. Could Andy Reid, Pete Carroll, or Bill Belichick take the Jacksonville Jaguars to the playoffs? Belichick probably for sure. Andy Reid maybe. Pete Carroll probably. Year one, I would put money on Belichick doing so, especially in that weak ass AFC South. Pete Carroll and Andy Reid, it might take year two, but I think they eventually would, yes, even with the handicap of having Blake Bortles as a starting quarterback. Sammer Madhouse. Would you take John Wall or Kyrie Irving if starting an NBA roster from scratch? That is an excellent question. As a face of a franchise, I might take John Wall. Actually, I would take John Wall. Cool as fuck cool guy, so he must think he's cool. Which rookie QB will start a game first this year? I think the smart money is on potentially Deshaun Kaiser first, and then Deshaun Watson second, and then probably Mitch Trubisky third. If I had to go in that order, that's probably what it would be. Tommy CB wants to know, which black female celebrity is your all-time favorite and who's your crush now? They are one and the same. It is Serena Williams. Imagine that dude's disappointment when she gives birth and find out that motherfucker looks just like me. Just saying. Don't kill the dream, damn it. But it's Serena Williams all day, every day. Volfan0531. How was Lane Kiffin? Top 10 college football programs of all time. I can rattle off the top 5 instantly. It's Alabama, it's USC, it's Notre Dame, the U, and Oklahoma. In terms of once you get outside of the top 5, people might throw in Texas and Florida State, Florida, Ohio State, Nebraska. You know, when you talk about throughout the history of college football, I think that's more subjective. But I think the clear-cut top 5 programs are the ones I just named in any particular order, depending on your perspective, allegiances, biases, whatever. It's Alabama, it's USC, it's Notre Dame, it's the U, it's Oklahoma. Those are the 5 big dogs in history. Those are the 5 programs to me that if you have a job anywhere else, regardless of it, even if you're at, let's say, Florida State, which is right in there in that top 10 mix, but an Alabama comes calling, you have to listen and probably take the job. You have to. You have to. There's just too much history there with that program, too much prestige with that program. It is one of those jobs. And when I think of those jobs, it's Alabama, it's USC, and it's still Notre Dame, even though I would put them probably 5th on the list. But the U, while it's had its drop downs and it's not the same, I still think ultimately when you look at the entire history, it's one of those jobs you still have to look at, you still have to consider. Dave G123_456. Want to make a bet, Schleg Daddy? If Jay Cutler takes the Dolphins to the playoffs, that you'll have to dance in your underwear and put it on YouTube. I never said that they wouldn't make the playoffs with Cutler. I mocked the deal. I laughed about an NFL team giving Cutler potentially $10 million. I laughed because he left Fox at the 11th hour to go play another season in the NFL because the NFL just can't quit this guy. But you know what? You're fucking on. If Cutler takes the Dolphins to the playoffs, the real bet should be if Cutler started 16 games for the team. Because I know for sure I'm winning that bet because he hadn't done that since 2009. Hell yeah, I'll do it. I'll even sing a pro Jay Cutler song. But the question is, if and when he doesn't, then where's the payoff for me? If you don't have something that you're willing to do, then there is no bet. We're not making one of these one-sided fucking bets where the only person with anything to chance, anything at risk is me. I'm just saying. Sports Tristan, where does Drew Brees rank amongst all-time quarterbacks? think he's top 10 for sure. It's a little tricky comparing quarterbacks now, just with the explosion of the passing game over the past 10 to 15 years. The stats get so inflated by comparison to even guys like Marino and Montana and Elway and so on and so forth, and even Favre. But when you look at his impact and his importance and significance and what he did for that Saints franchise, he made the Saints relevant. He made the Saints matter about as much as Hurricane Katrina did, frankly, if we're being honest. And he took them to a Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl championship there. That cements him as top 10 forever and a day. Top 5, I don't know, but top 10 for sure. MFA2, thoughts on the baseballs reportedly being juiced. Well, if the players can't juice, Major League Baseball doesn't want people to not be able to hit home runs, so you got to juice something. They're juicing the damn baseballs, and everybody fucking knows it, period. David Smitty 85, favorite non-Chicago Bear NFL player. Is this currently or all time? Because all time, favorite non-Chicago Bear NFL player. My favorite non-Chicago Bear NFL player to watch, at least of all time, was either Randy Moss or Barry Sanders. So it would be one of those two guys. I might lean a little more towards Barry just because he touched the ball more. Favorite non-Chicago Bear currently? Favorite non-Chicago Bear currently? Ugh. It pains me to say it, but the man crush is real, and I hate myself at the same time. Aaron Rodgers. Just an idea sport. Opinion on Alex Jones and Megyn Kelly. You know, Megyn Kelly can go and leave Fox News and try to assimilate herself into the mainstream liberal media, that is NBC, but she's still an idiot and a whack job. Period. And just because Donald Trump was insulting her doesn't change all the stupid shit she said over the years. And as far as Alex Jones, he's a fantastic snake oil salesman. He's one of those guys that if you always cry wolf about everything, it all kind of blends together and it's hard to take any of it seriously. Now look, there are things that I agree with him on, such as if you believe 9/11 and the official story of 9/11, to me, you're fucking crazy. Because the only thing that makes sense is that the official story is bullshit. But when he goes into everything else, and you can clearly see his bias all the time, and you can really see what he's trying to do, which is utilize fear as a tool to make money. Alex Jones is basically a modern church. If he hasn't done so already, I would encourage him to file paperwork with the IRS to be classified as a tax-exempt organization. Because what's the difference between him and his church? Using fear as a motivating factor to get people to part with their money. He does that by selling his crappy products. The church does that by selling crappy sermons. What's the difference? But he's a clown and he's an idiot. And the people that follow him and religiously believe everything he says, I feel pity for. It's that eminent doom and gloom. Oh my God, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. There you go. Hope that answered your question. K_Nokaj. Who do you think would have won the 1994 World Series? I always thought the 94 World Series would have been the White Sox versus the Expos, and I might have went with the Expos. 32J Locke, why isn't Terrell Owens in the Hall of Fame? I think everybody understands why Terrell Owens isn't in the Hall of Fame. Fair or not, right or not, it is what it is. The guy was a massive distraction. He tore apart locker rooms for years. He was very selfish, me first. Yes, he put up great numbers. But what did that really mean for his teams? Now, to me, I say that a Ray Lewis, who copped a plea deal and ended up having to plead guilty for obstruction of justice and a double murder, if he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and we know he will be, and based off of his playing career, he most certainly deserves to be, then the fact that Terrell Owens isn't in the Hall of Fame is a crying shame. He'll get in, though. This is one of these things where it's not a matter of if, but when and how soon he's going to get in. So I tend not to get too amped up about it in a situation like this, unless there's somebody that is so clearly inferior to him that gets in either first ballot or gets in first before him, then I have an issue with that. But just be patient. He'll get in at some point in time. Kyle Garner, 92. What rule change would you make to make the NFL not the no fun league? All celebrations go. I mean, we still have rules and restrictions on what type of celebrations. Who gives a shit? And if other teams don't like it, then don't let them score on your asses. And they can't celebrate. I'm just saying. The other thing I would do is I get the philosophy of trying to protect the quarterbacks, but they go too far. You got to loosen it up at least a little bit. Now you're talking about guys can't wrap up below the waist. I mean, for years they've been taught the fundamentals of tackle a guy low and he'll go down. Now you're telling them that they can't tackle low. That would probably be what I would change. Mikey 0-1. Thoughts on Marshawn Lynch and what to expect from him this year? I think he could have a 1,000-yard season. I don't know if he'll have much more than that. But I don't think he's going to be needed for much more than that. Maybe even like 800 or 900 yards. You want to pick and choose your spots and hopefully get to the postseason. Then you want to unleash the beast there. I think he's a guy that can provide some much-needed balance at spots for that Raiders offense. And can help keep that defense off the field some, give them a goal line presence, give them a short yardage presence, help give them really a physical identity on offense. Like when you look at the Raiders offense right now, and you've got Derek Carr, you've got your franchise quarterback, you've got some talent outside of wide receiver. The offensive line is okay, but what really is their offensive identity? Marshawn Lynch, if anything else, can bring identity. He could bring championship experience, he could bring physicality, he could bring a presence, he can bring leadership, and most importantly of all, he could bring an identity to a team that ultimately could use one on the offensive side of the ball. That's kind of the way I look at it. Dan David asks, if Jared Goff sucks again, should the Rams consider moving on from him? I mean, his offensive line is still terrible. And what do you really have at wide receiver? Yes, they've invested several draft picks in him, but what do you really have that's proven established commodities? I mean, if he sucks really, really bad this year, then maybe you already have the determination that he's not the guy. Maybe it's time to start thinking about it. Maybe it is. But even 2 years in, to me, seems to be a little quick. California EST 96. Can you describe why single-payer healthcare should be the future? Sure. Really quickly. It's a matter of any option when it comes to health insurance in this country that is still based around health insurance providers setting the marketplace, creating the marketplace, is going to be inherently, fundamentally flawed. And while single-payer healthcare is not perfect, single-payer healthcare is also going to be the type of thing that, if done correctly, which of course we're talking about this country, so we'd find a way to fuck that up too, wouldn't be the type of healthcare that forces thousands upon thousands of people to go broke and declare bankruptcy and be financially ruined every single year. Hey, you're sick and you're fucking bankrupt. Good luck to you. And also, it would perhaps help us to get out of the cycle of sickness care and prescription drug care. When we talk about the opioid crisis in different parts of this country, and you hear the idiot in chief talking about it, you can clearly see that they don't want to touch on the real reason that is. And that is because people get so many prescription drugs that at some point in time they get hooked on some of these prescription drugs and they look for an outlet for filling that void once they lose a prescription. And they go to opioids. That's exactly what they do. Why in the fuck do you think there's a drugstore literally everywhere? Like right down the one main street here by my house. On the corner, there's a CVS. Then there's a Kroger with a pharmacy, a Food Lion with a pharmacy, a Target with a pharmacy. Go a little bit more, there's a Rite Aid. There's another CVS. A little bit more, there's a Walmart. Obviously, again, got to have a pharmacy. There used to be a Martin's that also had a pharmacy. All of these places, Walgreens is down the street. They have a pharmacy. Why is there such a need for so many pharmacies? Because our system creates that need. And it's all about keeping people just healthy enough to where they can come back, but just sick enough where they need to come back. And I can't believe that, I understand what politicians do because they're talking about their special interest money and everything else. But I can't believe like there are actually American taxpayers, American citizens that think that relying on health insurance companies to set the market and create the market is a good fucking idea. That think that having a free market solution is the way to fucking go. If that isn't the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard. It's just so dumb on so many different levels and clearly suggests a lack of a fundamental understanding of what is such an important issue. And think about the way health insurance is now. When people say, well, I don't want to pay for other people's shit. Well, ding dong, dumb dicks. If people don't have insurance, the hospitals aren't going to refuse service to them if they don't pay the bills. Guess what? The hospital's costs go up. They lose more money, meaning the insurance companies end up charging the customers more money, so meaning you're still fucking paying for it anyways. It's just such a dumb, idiotic argument. So many other civilized countries in this world have some form of single health payer system. And we are the lone holdouts, it seems like, stuck in our own stupidity. It's a whole thing of, oh, the government gets too big. It's not about the size of the government. It's about the efficiency and the effectiveness of the government. Our government could be 5 times the size it is and work well and be incredibly efficient, and that's a great government. Our government could be 1/5 of the size it currently is and create all types of major issues for its citizens and be totally lacking and deficient in a lot of areas, and that's a horrible government. It's this whole thing of talking about how size is related to the effectiveness of government, which is just complete horseshit. Just complete horseshit. You have some small companies that are incredibly successful, and then you have small companies that fall on their ass all the time. Big corporations tend to be more productive. Big corporations tend to make more money, be more sustainable, more viable long term. And they're bigger. So it's just dumb on so many different levels. But at some point in time, if we can get past it and say, hey, like now, you pay premiums, then, depending on the type of visit, you pay a copay to go for one type of visit to where they say, hey, you need to see a specialist, so then you've got to pay another copay. Then you've got to pay some type of copay if you got to get a prescription, because again, we got to get you hooked on the cycle of prescription drugs and sickness care, to where we also have to sit there and say, hey, not only are you paying in terms of premiums just to access it, but we're going to charge a higher price because it's under the insurance umbrella. Oh, that's right. You're also going to have out-of-pocket fucking cost. No wonder people go broke when they or their kids or their family get sick. It's just, we have to be better as a people, as a society, to see past that shit. It's socialized medicine. Well, I will tell you, this hybrid garbage ass bullshit that we have now isn't working. And if you think it is, wake up. Wake up. Alex Shirley 10, best young quarterback in the league. Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Dak Prescott. To me, the order is Derek Carr 1, Marcus Mariota 2, Jameis Winston 3, Dak Prescott 4. I know as a Titans fan, you wanted me to say Marcus Mariota, number 1, but Carr is the number 1 right now. It'd be nice to be a team having one of those 4 young quarterbacks, because someday those might be the 4 quarterbacks that are truly the face of the National Football League. But right now, Derek Carr is the best young quarterback in the league based off of the list of the 4 guys you provided to me. And McCracker Honky, from a pure talent standpoint, is Rodgers the best quarterback ever? And I don't know if I like the premise of the question only in this sense. I don't know that talent automatically equals greatness, and a lot of times it doesn't. Like, one of the most physically talented throwers of the ball I've ever seen was Jeff George, and in no way, shape, or form is he a Hall of Famer. But he had arm talent for days. Jay Cutler was also an eminently talented quarterback, and he had his moments of being very good, and he had his moments where he was mediocre to flat out terrible. Talent alone doesn't make him great. Based off of my eyeballs, based off of what I've seen, while Tom Brady is the GOAT in terms of quarterbacks in NFL history, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback that I have ever seen. And that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. But anyways, thanks to you guys that submitted your questions. We'll do more of these Q&As throughout the preseason, and especially once the NFL regular season kicks off.